Morning everybody, Ed Zimmermann here with Ed Talks at the Detroit Battery Show in the New York State Pavilion. This morning I'm joined by our first returning guest, Mr. John Cerveny, Senior Director at New York Best. John, thank you so much for joining us again.
Absolutely, thanks.
Really appreciate it. And, you know, John, we were speaking just a minute ago about how much this event has evolved over the years. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've been, as New York Best, we've been coming to the event. I think maybe we missed the first year, but this is the 15th year of the show, and it has grown dramatically. I mean, the number of booths here, the number of companies engaged, the attendees, all of that, those numbers have just grown terrifically. They actually have because it's the 15th year, they have this set of panels out in the front that show snapshots of each year of the show and the attendance and kind of the themes. And I found on the 2015 panel, Bill Acker, our executive director at New York Best, was a featured speaker, and he was introducing the topic of battery energy storage as a driver for battery production.
Wow.
And so that's 10 years ago. And when he was really kind of breaking the ground on that topic at this show. I think you look now, and when you walk the floor here, you see so much focus around energy storage systems, stationary storage, and in addition to motive power and the traditional kind of large demand drivers. But of course, the value, the durability, the things that energy storage does for companies, for the grid, have really captured a lot of people's attention and investment. And,
that's fantastic.
It's great to see. I mean, it is exciting times for the energy storage community
Absolutely.
In the States.
Absolutely. I mean, I know we're seeing that on our side as well. Obviously, a lot going on in the world today. People may be under the impression that systems of this type maybe have less relevance today than they were, even just 2 years ago. Yeah. But I think you and I will agree that very much is not the case. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. And you're right. Given recent developments from a regulatory and policy standpoint, the renewables community is feeling squeezed in many ways. The really good news to me is that energy storage doesn't live or die by one of those elements. This is something that works well for every source of electrons there is.
That's right.
And so it just makes things work better. It provides resilience, it provides security. We continue to build out and work on a supply chain that is much more domestic content and under our control. And so I think there's such an opportunity for us to leverage that and to say, hey, this isn't a one-trick pony that attaches only to a solar cell and that's the solution. This is something that makes the grid work better regardless of where the power source is, and simply just does a better job and causes higher efficiency overall for the grid. It's a tool that is useful to grid planners, to utilities, to companies as they're looking to secure their operations. There's so many aspects to what a good energy storage system can do and does do on a daily basis. Sits there quietly and waits for the event and delivers the electrons as needed. As needed,
exactly. CMP, we're more than likely going to be putting in place an energy storage solution at our facility in Binghamton, New York, likely one of the units that we produce ourselves. Part of our investigation, part of our research, what we're learning is that, the opportunities for companies that are choosing to adopt this technology go beyond merely managing their own energy costs, right? They can contribute more broadly to grid stability for the entire community. Is that something that you can speak to a little bit as well?
It's interesting. Even on a personal level now, I can speak to that. So in my home, we have 2 Tesla Powerwalls. I live in the woods, and in the winter we get outages that go from 2 minutes to 2 days, multiple times every winter. So it made sense to have backup power, and being what I do in my life, I thought batteries made sense.
Of course.
So those 2 Powerwalls give about 2.5 days of power in the event of an outage to normal operations at home. So I live that sort of resilience part. What just happened is that National Grid, our electricity provider, I'm now part of a virtual power plant. So we just had our first call where my same 2 batteries that have been doing their job as a resilience buffer for us are now producing revenue. So it is nothing changed in
Yep.
my home. I didn't have to reprogram or add new devices or anything like that. It's simply the tool that was already there is now being recognized by the utility and by the regulator to say, this can do more. And
Right.
so in exactly the same way, every battery that's connected to the grid has that capability. And so it is it's like, it almost be like buying a Swiss Army knife that one morning you wake up and it has 2 more blades, right? You're like, well, I never knew it could do that.
Wow.
and so that increased value continues to be a real driver, I think, as to why people take the battery so seriously, and even why it's not maybe been badged with some of the more harsh treatment
That's some
under
of the
recent
other
policy. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. So,
absolutely. And so, and your experience at home, enterprises can take advantage of some of those benefits as well,
100%.
if they choose to invest in that
Yeah.
types of technology for their facilities. So savings on the one side, resilience on the one side, and then even opportunities to generate passive revenues on the other side,
Yeah.
which is really fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
we spoke a little bit earlier about the great work you're doing with the New York Supply Chain, developing this ecosystem across the state. We spoke with Ray from AMT a little while ago. Can you add a little bit to that as well? I
Yeah.
know your team was
Yep.
largely responsible for that work.
Yeah, the New Energy New York supply chain development team that I lead as part of that program has done literally hundreds of visits to facilities across the state.
Right.
Had hundreds more meetings with individuals and companies, and one of the themes that clearly is strong in New York State is the ability to support energy storage systems. And so, from components, from you name it, we have sealants, we have gaskets, we have people who make the metal enclosures and populate those enclosures. Almost everything you can see inside an energy storage system is in some form or another made in New York, or can be.
That's
and
phenomenal.
so we have this long legacy of very strong supply chains for some manufacturers who used to be really active in the state and are no longer.
Yeah.
But those companies that were part of the supply chain survived, and in many cases have thrived because they're really good at their niche, whether it's
Right.
injection molding or populating PC boards. So we have this great array of assets that really can be, and our work leads us to pulling them together into an ecosystem, a support system for people in the energy storage space.
That's phenomenal. And so if an enterprise does seek to establish itself in the United States to support this market, which continues to grow aggressively, and they wanted to look at New York State as potential anchor point, right, to build out a facility, build out a capability, how would they go about doing that?
One of the best ways is to go to the New York Best website, where we house the energy storage supply chain database.
Right.
So that database, and then really if you just go to ny-best.org, you'll find a drop-down that'll take you to the supply chain database. That is a repository of a lot of these assets, a lot of these companies and the resources they bring to bear.
Right.
We've got some closing in on 500 listings that we started with a blank slate, and we invited people to join, and we reviewed applications, and so this is a curated collection of assets. We didn't, start with a list of 5,000 NAICS code companies and winnow it down. So we've done a good job, I would say, of capturing a lot of those assets and publishing them, and it's freely available to anyone who wants to look, and anyone who wants to be listed can apply to be listed as well.
Yep.
So that is a good starting point, and then I'd say there's contact information there as to how to reach out to me and to the team, and say if you have questions. So you do a search, you get a list of companies, and you say, well, out of these 5, who's going to be most interested in my particular question or my need, and we can help with that.
That's
we can
awesome.
help answer those questions. Ray Strauss, who you talked to earlier,
Absolutely.
has been on site to a large number of the companies in that database, knows them, knows individuals personally, and can just open a door and start a conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think your point that this list is curated is, certainly for me, coming from a supply chain background before I moved into, product and business development, that curated list, knowing that this has been vetted, people have been on site, conversations with senior leadership have occurred, you understand where these organizations are today, where they hope to be tomorrow, and what they can do for potential new partners right now. That is enormously valuable. Like, I've gone down the NAICS search route before, right? And more often than not, the outcome is not favorable. But people can rest assured that if they're working with the team at New York Best and they're using this database as a resource, every company in there is a known quantity.
Right. Yeah, we've literally had, and I won't name names, but we have an application where when you do a search on the address that was provided, it's a house, and you say, well, not so sure.
Yeah,
and
not so sure.
Further due diligence.
Yep.
We've eliminated those kind of listings and have focused in on actual companies that are building things, have connections, have ability to scale with companies.
Yeah.
And so we've put a lot of effort into making this a useful tool.
Absolutely. I mean, having access to an organization like your own as a consultant that can provide that in-depth understanding of the supply chain ecosystem, support for workforce development, assistance with finding and acquiring facilities, that is so enormously powerful and a big attractor definitely for companies entering the industry.
Our relationship with the state of New York has always been good as New York Best. We kind of grew out of a New York State initiative. Through this program, I'd say that relationship has deepened and gotten even stronger, particularly with the folks at NYSERDA and with Empire State Development, the Economic Development Group. The work they do, we've really, I think, worked nicely together to inform each other on what's important to the companies in energy storage space and batteries, and the state conversely has said, well, what else can we do that would help attract more and to grow this opportunity even further.
Absolutely.
It is really a strong and positive relationship, and I think it is one of the reasons that one of our taglines on the NSF engine is we're going to be the America's battery technology hub.
Yep.
And when I first saw that, I thought, well, it's kind of a big claim, but honestly, we have the assets, we have all of these pieces. In some ways, it's a mantle that's there for us to claim, and I think there's truly an ability for New York State to be number one in the country in terms of what is happening on the battery activity and around energy storage systems in particular.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Really appreciate you joining us
Absolutely.
again, John.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And I know we're going to be here, for the next couple of days, enjoying the rest of the participants here at the New York State booth. We invite people to come by, speak with us here at CMP, speak with John and his great team at New York Best. Happy to have some conversations and understand how we can support you.
Thank you to you and to the CMP team. You guys are outstanding and have been strong partners in this from the outset. So
Great.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate that, John. Thanks again.
You bet.
Very good. Thanks, everyone.